Hello, everyone. Welcome to 5 Questions with LeRoy Butler. We are here in week 2, the Seattle week. Before we get to the Seahawks, let's take a little look backwards at the Chicago Bear game. And that was not an easy victory for the Green Bay Packers. Chicago Bears played pretty darn well. Now, let me float my theory on this game to you.
Here we go.
Okay. This game was pretty even. Two teams played pretty even. The difference in those two games, Aaron Rodgers, Clay Matthews. They don't have Aaron Rodgers. They don't have a player of Aaron Rodgers' ability. They don't have a player of Clay Matthews' ability. And that's the difference between good teams and bad teams, or average teams. Am I right? Or is that, I mean, what do you think about that?
It does seem to be simple, but you're right. I mean, you have to have a guy that's an impact player that you can count on. And the Bears don't have that right now. But I will say this. The Bears' tempo was very upbeat the first half. Actually, Jay Cutler did a great job of getting this team in the position to run plays where they thought were successful. If you go back and look at Peyton Manning last year, his flow was very good in Denver, and they took the same offense and brought it over here, John Fox did, and pretty much gave Cutler a chance to run the offense. So if you move, and I really didn't like the way the Packers safeties the first half, Tom, they were moving too quick and too early. That gives the quarterback a chance to run the ball to the soft spots. And for the like again, the first half, you know, they were very good. But I'll say this: the Packers defense was very good in the red zone because the Bears helped them out by continue to throwing the ball in the red zone instead of running the football.
Yeah. I think of 2 plays Matthews made. One was drew the holding penalty on a play in which there was a flag in the end zone, would have been a touchdown. And then, of course, the big play against Cutler. And really, you look at that, that's probably the difference in the game. And Rodgers in those throws he made to James Jones.
And I think another play that Clay made, he chased Forte down from the back, saved the touchdown. That was such an impact play that if Clay's doing that and he's playing to that level, that defense, statistically, they give up a lot of yards. But if you look at the scoreboard, I mean, if he plays that way, they're going to be tough to beat.
Okay. But we will point out some weaknesses in their run defense.
To be fair, yes.
Because they're going to face a very good runner, and of course, and a good team, Marshawn Lynch.
Yes.
All right. So let's, nobody around the PAC organization likes to look backwards, but we sure do. That's our job. Go back and look at what happened.
With the media, what do you think?
I mean, it's a big week. There's a lot of hoopla to this. I sort of compare it to when you finally got the Cowboys back at home in '97. Except you had won a Super Bowl the previous year, and you had finally gotten them. But do you sense that that's sort of that they've been waiting to get Seattle at home?
I think so. I think for the most part, you look at it still stings that you were up 19-0 at their place with the Super Bowl on the line, and it took 4 minutes to dismantle you. This is the game you're looking for. You want to put them in your rearview mirror by beating them. It'll be almost 2 or 3 games behind you because they just lost to the Rams, a division game. If you beat them, it's a division game. You had a tiebreaker. So this is an important game for a lot of fronts because I think most teams think that they got to beat Seattle to get to the Super Bowl. And here's a big measuring stick to see how good you really are this early in the year.
But let me pose this to you. If they win the game, it may not mean a whole heck of a lot at the end of the season, just like the first loss of the year last year, they didn't look like a team that was going to the NFC Championship, and they did. If they win the game by a ton, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to the NFC Championship. These early season games are hard to I sort of understand why McCarthy says we're not going to make a big deal out of this game because it's week 2.
But as players, Russell Wilson is undefeated against Aaron Rodgers. That's stuff you don't want on your resume. As players, you feel like it was a perfect storm last year to lose that game. You want this game. This is a big game. It's Sunday night. Everybody's going to be watching. And for the most part, I think it does separate you from being 2-0 and 0-2. Now, our 0-2 team has gone to the Super Bowl maybe a couple times, but if you're 0-2, it's a lot of pressure on you moving forward with so many moving parts, so many different players, not to mention Chancellor's been holding out. There's a lot going around Seattle right now. You don't want to give them no momentum by losing this game.
Definitely. So, based on what we've seen from them at the end of last year and what we've seen through week 1, which was a St. Louis team that really brought it to them. I mean, they just smacked them. And Seattle still almost won. But St. Louis probably played them as tough as any team I've ever seen play them. What's the difference? What allowed them to knock Seattle around a little bit this time?
Well, St. Louis had a great game plan. Their game plan was to get after Russell Wilson, to have a spy on him, but with a defensive back, a guy that can run him down, and to really dismantle that offensive line. Seattle's not a very good offensive line. I mean, they confused them. They couldn't establish the run like they wanted to. And I think they really, Tom, missed Jimmy Graham because, oh, wait a minute, he's playing for us. Then they start getting him the ball. Like, where is he? I mean, they're not even using him. Next thing you know, they start to use him, then it opens the offense up a little bit. Because at one point, they were just taking him away by having somebody hit him every time. So I think that's what this offense is trying to figure out their identity. Why wouldn't we use a 6'6", 250-pound tight end? There's no way you cannot use this particular guy. So I think for this offense to understand that the Green Bay Packers have never traditionally covered tight ends well, that'll open it up for Marshawn Lynch, but they're not the team, Tom, of when they went to the Super Bowl the last couple of years. I think there's some holes in this team.
Okay. Speaking of holes, there may be a couple in the Packers defense again. Morgan Burnett, we don't know for sure whether he's going to play this week. Definitely was missed in the Bears game. And then Sam Barrington has an injury that, you know, that could sideline him for quite a while. We don't know the specifics of it yet. But assuming he is out, what kind of impact does that have on their defense playing against this team?
It had such an impact that when Nate Palmer got hurt, they called a timeout because they didn't want him to go out the game. That's a big impact. They don't want to have to play secret agent Ryan yet. No.
It's too early, huh?
It's too early to find out. But that's your heir apparent. You chose not to bring in another veteran middle linebacker for whatever reason. It's going to be some roster spots open up. So if Barrington can't play, you almost have to find a veteran.
Think so?
To come in here.
I mean, you got to give Nate Palmer a chance.
He's going to be the starter, but that affects your special teams now. And not only that, if he gets hurt, now what? So you're going to have to figure out, can Malumba play inside linebacker? Can Nick Perry play inside linebacker? Can Elliott
or you
play
have
inside
to play
linebacker?
Clay Matthews more.
Or you got to just keep him there and rotate more guys outside linebacker. But you got to play, or what you could do is go to like a 4-3 defense. Just 3 linebackers, and Clay's your middle linebacker. It's a lot of ways you can do it, but you got to keep the aggressiveness of your team up. You don't want to get just 1 or 2 players out and just change the whole concept of your defense.
Okay. One thing we will see for sure is Richard Sherman and Seattle defense that still very aggressive, missing Cam Chancellor, but you know, I wonder what Aaron Rodgers has learned playing them. What do you think? He's had a couple of chances. He's not had great games against them. He's got his mobility back, which should help. But
that should help.
What do you think he's looking at going into this game?
He's looking for the challenge of saying that he can beat top defenses. Because if you go back and look at Aaron Rodgers as a whole, top defenses play well against him for whatever reason. But if for some reason this year I thought the Chicago game was his best game, one of his top 3 as a pro, because he played with some guys a lot of people naturally don't know, but he made it work. I mean, 3 touchdowns, you know, under 200 yards passing, but no interceptions. So this particular game, he wants to continue, don't throw any interceptions, but find out where certain guys are on the field and just run your offense. He got a different guy calling plays, so it's a little bit different. And he may go to more check with me system, let Rodgers run the plays that he's more comfortable with. You may see them throwing the ball a little bit more to Eddie Lacy, a little bit more screens and draws if that rush gets too impactful for him. I think you got to rely heavily upon Aaron Rodgers to do what he really wants to do. Because without Jordy Nelson, the deep threat just isn't there. They're just not going to throw down the field a whole lot.
Yeah.
So to do that, you got to do a lot of play action, max protection, things of that nature.
What does not having Cam Chancellor do to their defense?
I think you can confuse them just like the Rams did. You got to use your speed, your intermediate. You're looking for matchups. You're looking for any time you can get 18 on anybody, man-to-man in the middle of the field. And I would love the outside matchup as James Jones proved last week. Anybody on James Jones, you like that matchup. And I think for the most part, Devontae Adams is going to give you something quickness that maybe Seattle hasn't seen in certain areas. So it can be a good way to use it. But I think the guy that can be the player of the game, Tom, can be their tight ends. If you go back and look at that game, they would never cover Richard Rodgers.
Yeah.
He was always open.
Right.
So they got to go empty backfield sets with the tight end and use the middle of the field since Chancellor is not there. He's your big hitter.
Right.
You attack the middle of the field, and I think the player of the game could be Rodgers.
Oh, that's interesting. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Do you have a prediction on this game, by the way?
Well, I think the Green Bay Packers will beat them, and I'm going to go 26-16.
26-16.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I think
pretty
I'm right on
confident
with that.
for a homer.
You can write that down. That's not a homer. It's been smart. They're the better team.
16. Okay.
That's the score.
That's
You
in the
can
book.
write it down.
Yeah,
26-16.
It's in Vegas. All right, well, thanks for joining us. We will be back after the Seattle game, and don't forget to join us on X's and O's. We're going to look at a play from the Bears game and then some success that St. Louis had getting after Russell Wilson. See you next time.